So what was supposed to be our perfect date night ended with me sobbing in the lobby of the Alamo Drafthouse. And no, it wasn't a movie. We went to go see the Mandalorian and Grogu, and we got a wheelchair accessible Uber on the way there. Everything was perfect. The seats were so accessible, and the movie was just amazing. Highly recommend it. And the Uber driver that had brought us to the theater, when I asked him if we should schedule him for a ride home, he said, "Don't worry about it. There are several of us on shift right now, and somebody will be available to take your call." And I was like, "Okay, cool, thank you, appreciate it, man." So after the movie was over, I tried to hail an Uber from the app, and there were no accessible vehicles that were on at the moment, so at that time. So I waited a couple minutes, and it said try back in like 10 minutes. So I tried back in like 10 minutes, and there still were no rides available. This kept going for a while, and this was me and him about 2 hours into it. So this is something that we should have thought about, was the lack of availability of wheelchair accessible Ubers. So now it's been about half an hour since the movie let out, and we're still waiting outside. Jay's enjoying his freedom from being out in the hospital. So we've learned that next time we're going to schedule a ride so that we don't have to wait out here for so long. A few hours, I was starting to get really anxious because he had been away from the facility for quite some time, and he was missing out on some meds that were very important. So I started calling around to wheelchair transport companies to see if anybody would pick us up from there. They were all closed, not answering the phone, just every form of not being able to help us out that you could imagine. At one point, even the manager of the Alamo came over to see us and asked if we were okay. When I explained the situation, he was like, "Well, if there's anything we can do, can get you something to drink or something." I'm like, "No, but, unless you have a contact with the wheelchair transport company, that would be great." So he didn't. And about 4 hours in, I was trying to be so strong for Jay, but I was crying. I mean, it was hard. I finally ended up about 5.5 hours in calling 911. I explained to the lady, I said, I apologize in advance. This is not an emergency call, but if it becomes much later, then it will be a medical emergency. And bless her heart, she understood exactly where I was coming from. Apparently she had a loved one in wheelchair as well that she tried to do nice things like this for. And she got me in touch with EMS and paramedics. This paramedic gentleman that was available, he drove across town to get a van for us to come meet us. And then when he got there, the lift for the vehicle did not want to work. But it was okay because I was much calmer at this point. We had finally had some relief from the stress. We knew that there was somebody there that could help. He ended up calling a couple of his paramedic buddies. One had access to an ambulance. And so the ambulance and the fire truck came. And since Jay is paralyzed on the left side, he cannot assist in his own transfer. He usually uses a horror lift. So they took each side of him and just managed to pull him up from the chair and onto the stretcher. So by the time this was all done, it was like close to 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I had to be up in a few hours for work. We were both exhausted, and the EMS driver that had first come by, he offered to give me a ride home, follow us to where Jay is, and then give me a ride home from there after I picked up my computer, which, bless his soul, that was so far above and beyond. He actually told me when he dropped me off that this was what he signed up for when he said he was going to be a paramedic. So, lesson learned that we know now to schedule rides, not just expect them to be there. We have to go to the passport office coming up in a week or so, and we know now to schedule for somebody to pick us up and bring us home. Otherwise, we can't expect help to be there. We have to create our own help. So that's what this whole journey is about. And just one dock at a time, one day at a time.